Good afternoon, Casey. It's great to see you.
Hey, George, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much
Good.
for talking with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Oh, our pleasure. Um, Wonder if you might be able to introduce yourself, tell us about your responsibilities at Arizona State University, and a little bit about your the program that you're
Okay,
running.
great. Again, my name is Casey Self, and I at Arizona State University, and I'm currently in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I am the Senior Director for Advising. I've been in that role for now 2.5 years. I've actually been at ASU for 30 years, and I spent a lot of time in academic advising in another college that focused more on exploratory and interdisciplinary students. But in 2018, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, which is the largest college here at Arizona State University, was making some significant changes in their advising model. And so I was kind of looking at it from afar and very impressed. I was very impressed with what they were going to do. And then a colleague of mine decided to take another role. And so this position opened up, and I thought, I'm getting closer to the end of my career, and I thought this could be an interesting challenge to kind of wrap up my last 4, 5, 6 years here at ASU. And I was very fortunate to be successful in achieving the position. And so in the senior director role, the college is 25,000 undergrad students. So it's a very large college.
Mhm.
There are 19 academic departments, which we call units. And each of those units has their own advising office. And that's how it had operated until 2018. In 18, the college made a decision after a long process, going through the John Gardner process of reimagining the first year experience, on making changes for their first year students and their new transfer students, and creating a whole new advising hub that focuses on first year students and new transfer students out of the dean's office,
Okay.
rather than those students going directly into the academic unit. So that's my role. I supervise the advising hubs, which is right now 21 professional advisors. I have 3 directors and
Mhm.
21 professional advisors. And then there are the 19 academic departments. I don't directly supervise those units, but obviously I work very closely with those individuals in those units. Each one has a leader in a leadership role for the advising office, and I meet with them biweekly. And of course, talking big picture academic advising for the college, which is leading directly into the experience I had with this project and using this rubric. So that's kind of been my experience here for the last couple of years.
Well, super. Well, you and I worked together with an EAA, and we were doing a number of different things. And one of the things I shared with you was this rubric that I was trying to design and develop actually for one of the e-tutorials. You were very much interested in taking a look at it and using it. What was your motivation for that?
Because of my new role and because moving, I certainly would never say that they did not have an established program previously, because they did. One individuals, but it was extremely decentralized. I'm not going to say that's better or worse, but it was
Hmm.
decentralized, and they were moving more towards a centralized experience for their first year students and new transfers, and then keeping the decentralized model for the continuing students. And so when I came here and talking with my supervisors, I talked about the need to reimagine what academic advising is or could be in the college. And especially in the new model that they had created, we didn't want to stay status quo. We needed to rethink who does what are the specific roles. And so this tool was a great way for me to use the tool to begin conversations about us creating a common understanding, a mission, if you will, and common learning outcomes that we wanted to eventually create, just like you do in any advising program.
Hmm.
That had not happened. And so that was something I wanted to do. And this tool helped me begin that conversation.
That's great. And how many people participated in this endeavor of yours?
Yeah, so I have a total of nearly 100 people in the entire college that are associated with academic advising in one way or the other.
Hmm.
That's spread out with 19 departments and then the hubs. Um, Part of what we did was I created a survey using the rubric and allowed individuals to kind of give me their perspective of where they thought they were using the rubric on the 4 different categories. And I had about in the low 40s. So, just under 50% participation. I had conversations already with the leaders of each of those areas, talking about the goal of wanting to create a mission, wanting to create appropriate student learning outcomes in this new model. And when I showed them this rubric, they felt like this would help everybody kind of understand and why we're doing this and use it as an educational opportunity to demonstrate why these different areas are important. And for ultimately for us to be in a more common understanding rather than the varied responses we did get.
Okay, great. Super. So what were some of the issues that were raised by using the rubric when you started looking at tabulating the results and sharing them with your team?
Well, so I'm going to refer to a slide on my own here. So when I created the survey had 2 purposes. It was to get as many individuals who wanted to participate in their advising roles to answer the rubric questions. But I was also at the same time educating people about the need to have a mission and the student learning outcomes. And so I used the survey to get these results. And then also, what are your ideas for what you think a learning outcome is for a student in your role or
Hmm.
several learning outcomes? And then what are your ideas? What are some key terms that you believe belong in a mission? So it was kind of a double purpose there. So when I did the survey, I'm going to just go through these kind of each individually here. So
Okay.
at what level do you believe our college, the Liberal Arts and Sciences Academic Advising Program, has identified student learning outcomes? What we want students to know as a result of interacting with advisors. And I was pleasantly surprised that the responses, the 40 or so responses, were all over the map. Many people thought that we do have outcomes and we have goals that we want students to achieve. I think the issue probably was, were they the same across the 19
Okay.
offices?
Hmm.
And I think that would have been a different story. But there were some people that did not think we had outcomes, but most of the ratings were in the 2 to 3, and the highest category was 4 to 5. Learning outcomes are identified. And so that was nice to see that people at least connected their role to students learning about how to be successful. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. And then the next one was, what level do you believe the college has an academic advising curriculum? The organization of related learning outcomes to show a scope, sequencing, and scaffolding. This was not a surprise to me. Most people did not believe we had that. And they're right, we didn't. That some people, I think, maybe more people that have more experience with advising and have experience maybe with NACADA and
Hmm.
understanding some of the philosophies, they might have perceived in their own mind that we have some of that, but the majority of folks, well, it was well over half of the folks said there was nothing in place. And I would agree at that point, there was nothing in place.
Hmm.
The third one was, to what level do you believe the college has identified a pedagogy of critical thinking for students achieving their learning outcomes? And again, the vast majority said it's not in place, and they were right. I mean, at least from my perspective, they were right. A few people had answered 6, 7, 4, 5, but well more than half were in the 0 to 1, 2 to 3 range, believing that we didn't have anything,
Hmm.
which I was excited about, because I was hoping they believe we don't have it, but it's important to have. So that was kind of, where I was hoping we were going with this. The last one, to what level do you believe the college has identified strategic balanced means of delivery of opportunities for advising? This one was all over the board. And actually, I would probably agree with him. A lot of our units are very structured, and they have some really good delivery models that they're using. Now in the hub, we were brand new. We have some very structured procedures, but we were brand new. And so it didn't surprise me that this got all sorts of responses all over the board, everywhere from, the 4 to 5, 6 to 7, to many of them not thinking we don't have a delivery model at all. So this was a great starting point for me to go back and take these results to my group of about 20 advising directors or advising leads. Okay, this is where people think we are. So how do we move now next to getting everybody more to address the need to be more consistent? So I was really excited about that. And the tool worked great.
That's super. Just a question for clarification. What about those situations where something maybe did not exist, such as maybe you mentioned the advising curriculum, but people thought that it existed at a very high level?
I, to me, I think some of that was so those were individuals that, again, maybe have more years of experience in advising and maybe have been through some of the NACADA conferences or have a deeper level of understanding. And they, in their minds, and maybe even in a couple of the offices, have gone through somewhat of a process to identify our curriculum and how we're going to train advisors to be able to help students meet their learning outcomes. I don't think anybody could say they've done it to that detail, but they may have been doing it kind of unofficially.
Yes, and I think one or two of the other folks who've been engaged in this process talk about the idea that a lot of times what occurred was that people had an implicit notion that something existed.
Yes.
It was more of a common type of understanding amongst people, but it was never written down explicitly.
Right, right. And that's interesting, especially here at Arizona State University, not just my college. I mean, we're well over 100,000 students in about 20 different colleges that are very decentralized. We've never, while we have a very tight-knit advising community and we're very connected with each other, we've never really gone through the process to identify an established mission and an established delivery methods for the university. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing at ASU because we are so decentralized and different colleges do different things. But the fact that we're connected and we work with each other and we know that different people are at different levels of this, that is a good thing for us.
Were there other things that after looking at your data, and your data is very interesting, the results, any other type of issues that you thought that came up that interested you in terms of saying, oh, wow, I didn't perhaps perceive it that this would be an issue?
I don't think it was an issue. I think it confirmed for me that people with various levels of understanding about not only the big picture and the role of academic advising, but even how they in their specific office and their specific department are connected to a much bigger, broader process than they realized. And which was, again, I was okay with because I wanted to move now to help everybody understand we are all part of this big picture. And so, but other than that, I don't think that there were any other issues. I mean, I wish more people we always wish more people would have responded. But the responses we did get were very useful in helping us move forward.
That's super great. I'm glad to hear that. As far as once you completed it and you shared it with your team of 20 directors, what other steps are you taking with this information, and where do you hope to go from here?
Okay, so then this initial survey was sent out May, June of 2020. So this was all fairly recent for us. At the end of July, I had 2 half-day retreats with my leadership core. And again, the purpose is we wanted to begin the process of establishing a mission and then student learning outcomes, especially now that the college had changed the advising model to where we now have this freshman focus center and new transfer focus center, and then we had the continuing students in the units. what we did is we used the data. We started having conversations about where we were. We also took the feedback we got in the surveys from what people thought learning outcomes could be or should be, and maybe key phrases and mission statements. And over the course of the last semester, the fall 2020 semester, with everything else we were dealing with, we actually did go through and we had different groups work on learning outcomes, but we divided them. We identified learning outcomes for our first year students,
Hmm.
and then we identified learning outcomes for our second year students, and then third and fourth year students. Now, the reason that was key for us is because the students were moving from the centralized hub advising center at the end of their freshman year to the academic department. And what that process did and is continuing to, and we're still in the middle of this, and we still need to go more to our associate deans and our deans and have this conversation, and we have not yet done that. This is helping everybody be on the same page about what the expectations in terms of learning outcomes are for the first year students in the hub, and then what will the departments be more focused on when the students come to them. And this, when this is done, I think it's going to do tremendous things for our advising program. And I think this will definitely move us more towards, we have an established curriculum and an established identified process of what we want students to achieve at what points and who's going to be responsible for that.
That's
So that's
great.
where we are, and that's where we're moving.
That's interesting. And I wish you a lot of success with that. But it sounds
Thanks.
like there's a lot of enthusiasm too for this.
I want to thank you, George, for saying that, because I do want to talk about that. Um, this process has rejuvenated and it's kind of rallied this group of 19 different departments together. They all see the value of us coming together and understanding that even though we may not do things exactly the same way, the key is the student experience. And this process has helped them all understand that we as a college need to pay attention to and be intentional about what we want the student experience to be as they go through this advising
Hmm.
in our college. And that's been awesome. I mean,
That's
it's
great.
been really nice to see that from all the individuals.
That's super. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Um, eh, Maybe changing a little bit. So you've had this experience. Um, what recommendations might you make to another institution in terms of using the rubric?
I think the key thing is for us, it was a starting point. And that's where I think this rubric, if your campus or your institution has not had a lot of conversations about common ground, common understanding, mission, this rubric helps you start the conversations by sharing that different people are at different levels, different people have different experiences, and by using the rubric to kind of see where people are, it also becomes an educational process about why this is important, and now what are the steps to bring everybody closer to the same perspective of where we are as either a college or an institution or an individual advising office. So I think it's the starting point.
Mhm.
What can come next and ultimately get you where you want to be.
I really appreciate you taking time this afternoon to share your thoughts and the information you have from Arizona State University. And we really look forward to hearing a follow-up eventually about your next steps on this.
Excellent. Thank you, George. It's been my pleasure, and looking forward to continuing the work.
Thank you so much.